Today we're going to make a put-in task, actually a couple put-in tasks with a bleach container, bleach wipes container. So the nice thing is it already comes with a top that closes. So there's not a whole lot of cutting involved, and it's pretty sturdy, so you can do a number of things with it. So I'm going to show you a couple tasks that you can make with it that are really easy. So I've washed it out a couple times, so I've gotten rid of that, bleach smell. And of course I know it's sanitary, so that's a good thing. So I'm going to cover it with contact paper first, just so it looks a little bit nicer, but you certainly could use it just the way it is. And in fact, for the second task we're going to make, it's actually a little bit easier to leave it this way if you want. So I think we can delightfully say it's not my best skill in the world, but it's doable. So we have it covered. I'm not going to cover the top because I want to make sure that it opens. I'm going to do a simple put-in task. We're just going to put pencils. Since it's nice and tall, it's an easy thing to put pencils into, which can be a good put-in task for slightly older students. So you can leave the top open. You could cut it off if you want to just leave an open one. You could cover the large opening and have them put it through the little hard thing where they have to actually push it through here. So if you want to make the task a little harder, you could do that. It won't last forever, but it'll last for a little while. You could also leave this and take an X-Acto knife and cut a hole in the top so that it's a little bit more tricky with fine motor. So it's up to you how it makes sense for your students. I'm going to do it this way for the moment. And so all the students have to do is put the pencils in. So that's a pretty simple task. Uses more age-relevant materials than some of the other things we might use for a put-in task. So that's one thing that you can use them for. When all the pencils are gone, then they close it up if you've left the top on, and it can be in a finished basket the way that it is. Another thing that you can do, and this is the one that you may want to not have the contact on for, is I've shown a picture of something like this before. Making a self-contained task where I put Velcro on the outside of tasks, of containers. Apparently I'm making a very patriotic task today. And the good thing about self-contained tasks, the thing I really like about them, is that self-contained tasks mean the students don't have to figure out what to do with the material. So with that pencil task I just showed you, they have to actually take the pencils, get them out, know that they have to take the pencils and put them in the top of the bin. They have to know what to do with their materials. With these, it's a little bit easier because everything is right there. There's only one step that they have to do. And that makes life a little bit easier. Now, what's good about this is the hard thing about putting things on the outside of a container, particularly one that stands up like this, is that the things have a tendency to fall off. It's hard to get items to stick. So you may have seen one that I share a lot that has counting bears on the outside of one of those big Costco, I think it's a pretzel bin. You can see how bad I am at putting these things on straight. I really am bad at doing things linearly. Not really my skill. I had people on my team who were much better at these things than I was. And wow, I'm really bad at it. I've really lost skills since I've not been in the classroom recently. So essentially what I want to do with this, the good thing about this is it's a pretty sturdy container. So A, it's not going to fall over when I put things on it. And B, it's probably going to hold on to my materials as long as my Velcro is strong enough So this becomes one that I can probably get to hold on to my blocks. Now I'm not going to put a ton of blocks on each of these pieces of Velcro. I'm probably going to put 4 on each. So I don't want to overload it. Now again, great thing is you can leave the top off. You can have them open it. Probably if you're doing this task, I wouldn't have them open it. I probably would remove the top or leave it open. And the students are just taking and dropping. And the thing that's good for this is that you get the sound that it makes when it drops, which is one of the things I really like about it. Now, if you have a student who has a visual impairment that you're struggling with trying to find things that are cause and effect, one of the things, and even if you're a kid who's really fascinated by noise, one of the things that you can use as a cause and effect activity for them for a put-in task is not just use these blocks, but you use something like this that has a hard surface and use bells, like jingle bells that you can get from the dollar store, because then they'll ring, they'll jingle when they go down. And that sometimes can be reinforcing for some students. It might be a problem for some, but it can be reinforcing for others. So keep that in mind. So obviously they're just going to put them together. Now, if your Velcro isn't this strong or isn't this wide, you may want to use smaller materials. So you might want to use something like just manipulative numbers. So these are obviously a much thinner item, so they're not going to be as heavy. Now they're going to require more fine motor. The good thing about the blocks is that they're big, so they're easy to catch onto and they're easy to pull off. A fine motor item like this is going to be harder to see, harder to get hold of, and probably a little harder to pull off. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing them, but they're going to be less likely to fall off over time. But these blocks are probably going to stay there without a lot of problems. And the good thing is this is a nice, smooth, cylindrical surface, so they're probably going to stay there. So that's another really good way to do this kind of task.